Patagonia and Its Desert. In the late 1800s, two American outlaws named Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid needed a place to hide. Butch and Sundance hopped a boat to South America and found the perfect place to hide out the vast plains and desert of southern Argentina called Patagonia. They set up a cattle ranch for a few years on the plains of Patagonia, which reminded them of Wyoming and Montana. But these two never could settle down. After a few years in Patagonia, they wandered north and were killed in a shootout with soldiers in Bolivia. Patagonia is a vast plateau, or tableland, almost entirely without trees, in the southern part of Argentina. It is bounded on the west by the soaring Andes Mountains and on the east by the Atlantic Ocean. Its coastline has cliffs almost its entire length. In the south, the cliffs can be as high as 150 feet. On the north, Patagonia is bounded by the Rio Colorado. From there it stretches south 1,200 miles to the tip of South America, the island of Tierra del Fuego. Much of Patagonia is semi-arid steppe. Cattle and sheep graze on the short grasses and shrubs of the steppes. Rainfall averages between 4 and 8 inches a year, but the dry winds evaporate most of the moisture, so that the entire region is almost completely without trees. Rivers flow down from the Andes toward the ocean, cutting deep canyons on the tableland. However, as these rivers cross the dry region, they gradually become smaller and smaller. Only a few of them make it all the way to the Atlantic. The surface of the land is made up of gravel, rock, and, in some places, basalt as a result of old volcanoes in the region. The basalt plains often have hollows that contain shallow lakes. Patagonia is in the southern hemisphere, so the winter months are June through September. The coldest month is July, when temperatures can drop well below freezing. Summer temperatures can climb to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or more. The wind blows constantly in Patagonia, down from the Andes Mountains eastward toward the Atlantic Ocean. In 1520, Ferdinand Magellan's expedition to sail around the world stopped on the shores of what is now Argentina. According to legend, the man who recorded the events of the expedition saw huge footprints in the snow. He called the people who made those prints Patagones, Spanish for big feet. The land thus earned the name Patagonia. The people who made the footprints in the snow were Tehuelche Indians. Stories spread throughout Europe of a gigantic race of incredibly strong people who lived in what is now Patagonia. The truth is that the Tehuelches wore very large boots stuffed with straw to keep their feet warm. This accounted for their large footprints. They were generally tall and strong, but hardly the giants that the Europeans imagined them to be. When the Spanish came to Patagonia in the 1600s, they brought horses with them. As happened in North America, horses escaped and were captured, tamed, and bred by the native people. Not much is known about the Tehuelches before the horse was introduced. But with the horse, the Tehuelches took to the steppes of Patagonia, living much like the North American Indians of the Great Plains. But the Tehuelches did not hunt buffalo. They hunted guanaco and rhea. The guanaco, which is related to the camel, looks like a small camel without a hump. It is about 4 feet tall at the shoulder, with long legs and reddish-brown hair. The Tehuelches hunted guanaco on horseback, using bows and arrows and weapon called a bola. A bola is made from a rope with weights tied at each end. The Tehuelches threw their bolas at the legs of animals, causing them to fall when their legs became entangled. The Tehuelches also hunted rhea, a flightless bird similar to the ostrich. The rhea is about 5 feet tall and weighs about 50 pounds. As European settlers arrived in what is now Argentina, they pushed into the interior of Patagonia to establish sheep and cattle ranches. Many of the immigrants were from Wales and Great Britain. They were fleeing from their hard life as coal miners. As the Welsh miners made their way inland into the vast wilderness of Patagonia, the names they gave to the places through which they passed tell of their hardships: the Island of Desolation, port famine, anxious point. The Welsh were delighted by the noisy, flightless water birds that came ashore on the Patagonian desert by the hundreds of thousands each spring. They called them penguins. Penguins continue to amaze and delight people in their habitat and in zoos around the world. Patagonia today is still very sparsely populated. But it is a productive and valuable part of Argentina. Sheep ranches cover huge areas of land. Farms and orchards are irrigated by the few permanent rivers. Patagonia also provided Argentina with energy from oil wells. There are also iron and copper mines in Patagonia. The rest of the huge area that is Patagonia remains such as Magellan first saw it, a vast, desolate wilderness, and like all Earth's deserts, full of mystery.